what do you focus on teaching them and imparting on them about what it takes to play center in the SEC, play center at Georgia?
So are you speaking more specifically to like Gus, Jared, all of those guys? Or?
Yeah, the guys
Okay.
behind you, like Jared, Bobo, the guys behind you on the center.
Yes, sir. So I think for me, I think the biggest thing is just making sure that I can help them with their individual skill sets. So it's kind of taking things that potentially they may not be as good at that I may be better at. And just trying to help them create those things that make sense. Because I think there are things that Jared is good at that I'm not good at, and I try to take things from him. And I think there are things that I may be good at that he isn't good at. So I think the biggest thing is being the older guy is trying to help them find the weaknesses that they may have and trying to help them strengthen those so they can become the most complete version of themselves. I think that's the biggest thing. And really just being an open ear for them, hearing some of the grievances and things that they may have or things that they feel like they can get better at, and try to give them all the knowledge that I have, because genuinely, I really do want to see those guys, reach their full potential.
When Coach Smart was asked this week about Carson dealing with the noise, and he talked about some of the things he can do, but also emphasized that the players around him can help too. So you as the center, what are some of those things you can do when you get to Saturday as far as helping Carson, helping him get settled and dealing with the noise?
So I think the biggest thing is having one set of eyes. I think that's huge. I think making sure that pre-snap, you have to make sure that all your reads, checks are in place, making sure that you're both identifying what's going on. Because the more you do that, the more you can communicate non-verbally, if that makes sense. So if everybody's on the same page, pre-snap, eyes are in the right place, things like that, it's less of verbal communication. So it's just more so making sure that throughout the week, preparing the right way and trying to make sure that you all have one set of eyes.
Two questions kind of here. What's the key to a fast start this weekend on the road? And what role does experience play with crowd noise? Because, you and Tatum, for example, have played together a lot. You don't have to talk as much. The verbal communication there might not be as much as it might be with Dylan this weekend.
What was the first part of that question again? I'm sorry.
The key to a fast start on the road.
Gotcha. So I think the key to a fast start definitely starts with practice. I think a good week of practice is essential. I think you have to start off executing there, and then I think going into the game, really just making sure that your preparation doesn't stop. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday even, just making sure that you're taking everything seriously, walkthroughs, whatever it may be, just so that you never know what rep may end up coming up in the game, so that you can go out there and execute. And I think that's the biggest thing is execution. I know that may seem a little bit cliche, but football is so much of just making sure that you're doing the small little things properly. So I think that's the key to a fast start would be just executing. But as far as Tate and I and some of the older guys that maybe have been in hostile environments before, I think that it'll help a bit. But ultimately, I think it will be a challenge. But I think it's a challenge that ultimately you try to embrace as best as you can, and just go out there and really depend on each other. I think that's the biggest thing. It's just understanding that each place, each year, each game, it's all unique, it's all different. So it's understanding to not be overly confident, if that makes sense, but also having enough confidence to understand that at the end of the day, you're here to do a job, but you're not doing it alone. You have your brothers with you.
Your third season as a starter, how much better are you at like identifying the mic, knowing what's coming, and how does that help you do your job on the field?
So I would like to believe that I've gotten a lot better with it, but I think the truth of the matter is that no matter how much film you watch, no matter how much you study, eventually there will be something that you haven't seen before. It's just the nature of the beast. Somebody will do something different that you maybe didn't prepare for, or you didn't think they were capable of. And honestly, a lot of times it's about how you react. It's about doing things on the fly, making different substitutions, whatever it may be. Excuse me, that wasn't the right word, but I'm drawing a blank here. But it's just making sure that you can just change things on the fly. I think that's the biggest thing. And of course, it helps to watch film, and when things are good, you're off to a great start. But I think the biggest thing is being able to react on the fly to the things that you maybe didn't prepare for. I think that's the biggest thing.
You mentioned that preparation, getting ready for a road environment. How has the preparation been this week, specifically with the offensive line, you guys getting ready to go out there and to deal with that on Saturday?
So I think Coach Smart has done a tremendous job of just helping us to understand the type of environment that we're going in. I think it's an amazing stadium. I think they do a tremendous job, with their fans, with their players. Playing there, it was a great environment. It was really fun for us. So I think the biggest thing is just making sure that you over-communicate, not taking things for granted, making sure that the guys to the right to the left of you can hear you, I think that's the biggest thing. It's just over-communicating, overdoing it, so that when the game comes, If there is a situation where you do have to over communicate, it's not new.
Just wondering, assessing Auburn's defensive front, they're kind of known for big dudes up front, being getting a lot of action. What's your view of their defense? Will this be as good as you've seen so far this year, front seven?
Amazing defense. So I think the best way to describe them has to be big and fast. That's like the easiest way to describe them. So I think 99, 50, 52, all of those guys that they play up front, extremely big, but they're quick, which really is interesting because when you have those big style guys that can play the run, they can also rock, move, fill linebacker plugs, bring safety pops, nickels, whatever it may be. All of those things, I think that's the best way to describe them because they play so stout up front, but they also move. I think 9 is a great player. I think when they bring 5 off the edge, the nickel, he is great. Sometimes they even bring down the boundary safety. So they do a lot of different things. And I think that's the best way to describe them is just that they're big, they play very physical, and that they're really, really fast. They run side to side well. So I think they're an amazing defense, and, we're preparing the best that we can.
Cedric, what do you remember about the first time you made the travel roster, and what did you learn through that experience? Because I know you were probably a young guy watching some of the older guys that had been on these trips before.
So my first time on the travel roster was COVID year. We went to play Arkansas, and I guess the best way to tell that story would be I just remember Coach Luke putting everybody else but me. And after the game, he kind of just asked me about my experience, and I just tried to hold it together. Oh, it was great, So that's probably the biggest experience I had. But ultimately, I think Coach Luke knew exactly what he was doing. I obviously wasn't ready at that time, but he did an amazing job of making sure that I was at least there to be able to experience it. Couldn't really recognize and be mature enough back then to understand, but as I get older, I definitely understand.
You're right next to Dylan, and you've seen him grow in the system for 3 years now. What has his progression been like for you? Do you think his confidence level has gotten up since he's gotten the chance to start also?
Absolutely. I think it absolutely has gotten better. And I think the biggest thing about Dylan, which is his best quality, I think a lot of people would like about him, whether it be college football or next level, whatever it may be, is that he's willing to want to learn and is willing to want to get better. Dylan is always asking questions. Dylan is always inquiring about what he could have done better. Sometimes when I'm not in trying to get water, he's coming to me, hey, did you see my step so in this play, whatever it may be. And I'm like, Dylan, I was tired. I didn't see anything you did there. But he's just always inquiring, to get better. And that's one thing I love about him is that he's always looking to better himself. That's something that you can't teach, that burning desire inside. So I think that's one thing that definitely helps him, and I think that his confidence continues to grow.
Yeah, Marcus mentioned you as a guy that a lot of people, including himself, look up to as one of the leaders of this team. Just how have you tried to be that leader through the early part of this season, where the offense has kind of had its ups and downs at times?
So I find that interesting because, to be honest with you, Rose is one of the guys that I look to. I can think about like the Ohio State game when, my words may not have had the same effect that his did, to get us going and different things like that. So, I think we all take turns. I don't want to be the guy that's the sole leader or anything like that because that's not true. That's not fair to other guys to go out there and bust their butt and lead and, do different things. I think we all play a part in this. So I think that's the biggest thing. I think just understanding that I do have a role and I do my role to the best of my ability when I have the chance, but also understanding that it's not solely on me. I have a bunch of other guys out there that are leading and doing the right things well.
Time for 2 more questions. Seeing what Jalen Carter is doing in the league right now, is it a relief for you to not have to face that in practice every week?
I mean, I kind of miss it, but just being honest with you, it's really a proud moment for me. And I'm sure he probably knows this, but it's a proud moment for me because that was my, college roommate. That was the guy that was right next door to me. I spent a lot of time with him sharing the same bathroom and, stuff like that. Battle with in practice, got each other better. So to see him doing what he's doing on the next level is absolutely amazing. And to be honest, it's just kind of like a proud brother thing for me.
You're majoring in art, right?
Yes.
Where did your interest in that come from? What do your classes look like, and what kind of, I guess you draw stuff too, right?
Whenever I can. Being honest, I think football takes up a lot of my time, whether it be watching film, practice, getting extra work. I think that takes up a lot of time, so I'm not allowed to be as creative as I may want to be, but also that's okay. So I think my class schedule is pretty smooth. Like yesterday, I didn't have class because art majors get certain days for research days, but we don't have class. So that's pretty cool. But majority of my classes right now are online. It kind of allows me to have more time to spend on football and, you know, still be able to get my work done, which I kind of asked for my senior year. I wanted to have the flexibility to be able to get an extra lift, you know, stretch, recovery, watch film, whatever it may be, but also still be caught up on my classes. So I think that was a big thing for me, and I'm honestly happy that it was able to come to fruition.
What was your interest in it? Like, you know, did you grow up doing a lot of that?
Yeah, so the story, how I discovered art, so I want to say it was maybe kindergarten, maybe first grade, something along those lines. But came home from school, mom was home. She went to go take a shower from work, finished my homework, and I'm sitting at the dinner table, and we had like these playing cards, but they were like for kids. Had a clown on it, and you know, just a kid bored, so it's like, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and draw, you know, the card or whatever. And my dad ends up walking through the door, and like just screaming like, Keon, come here. And like he's showing her like the cards, like this is amazing, like, you know, I didn't know you could do this. And you know, I remember my mother and father ended up getting me tested for talented art around 3rd grade, and then from there, I had talented visual art classes for the rest of my life. So
Thank you, Cedric.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sedrick.
God bless y'all.